Hey there, good evening. Welcome to the Dev Talk Show. Um, got a little bit of a special event tonight, which is more of me figuring out how to use my Linux VM, frankly. We've used it on the show before, and I like using this Linux Mint based VM for a couple reasons. One of them is that, on your own development machines, you can really get to a place where like you've got everything set up, everything just works. And I think when that happens, like somebody watches what you're doing, and the first thing they do is they go to try to set stuff up themselves, and they go, "I don't, I don't know, I don't know what you did, right? So I don't know how you got there. How did you get that installed?" And so what I like about switching to this is everything's not set up. So a lot of times we get to like actually show, "Hey, here's how we installed this or that." So we have greetings from Dark Elder here tonight. Good to see you. I know we've been off the air for a couple weeks. Um, it's summer right now, and so people are busy. In fact, I was in California for a couple weeks, maybe not quite a couple weeks, and so wasn't here for a couple Wednesdays, and then next week is kind of in question for me too, just because of some things going on at work. But but yeah, good to see you again. Glad you are here and joining us. And besides, might be able to learn some stuff from folks here in the audience. But yeah, things are going well. Summer is always a busy time for everybody, especially folks with families and so on. So it just so happened that to try and get just what we're doing back on track, I said, hey, you know what? I haven't fired this thing up in a while, but maybe maybe I can take what is relatively a blank machine and try a few things that I've never tried before. So a lot of this stuff's new to me, but hopefully everything's going well with you. And thanks very much for joining us. It's funny. I think we're live right now on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. And I wasn't sure that was going to work because we happen to use Restream, and Restream was saying something about they were going to limit for the basic accounts. They were going to limit your streaming destinations to 2 at once, which was fine. I was just going to dump the Twitter one for now, but that seems to be working. So I don't know what's going on there, and that's okay. It's not that big a deal. We're definitely still at a point of trying to grow the show. Rich Ross, our co-host Rich Ross, he is a much better historian of the show than I am. And he was saying that we are coming up on our 3-year anniversary. I think he said it was August 10th. And what's really amazing about that is how this show started was the three of us often attend Philly.net user group, which is in Malvern, Pennsylvania. There's a Microsoft MTC center there. And for 20 years, Philly.net, primarily, handled by Bill Wolf and Rob Kaiser. There have been many other great volunteers over the years who have done a ton for Philly.net. So I'm sure I'm being awfully unfair by leaving them out. But Bill Wolf and Rob Kaiser built a in-person user group beginning at the dawn of .net. And when I moved into the area, I was fortunate enough to go there and meet some awesome people who were very open and welcoming. And there was a studio at the Malvern MTC that we were able to go into after Philly.net, and just we would really almost always we would just kind of mess around with whatever we saw presented that night. It was, if you look at some of the earliest videos on this channel, like there were some where we didn't do a whole lot of audience interaction because we were just trying to get something working. And then there was one time in particular where we were trying to get something working with it turned out to be Azure DevOps, the CI/CD stuff, and there was a person in chat who was trying desperately to remind us that in Linux, not to use the Windows backslashes for file directory paths. And it should have been something that was easy to remember, but just popped out of my mind. And so that person was answering us in chat, telling us exactly how to fix it for probably a half an hour, and then here we are. We met some really cool people over the years, and we're super excited to be heading into what will be the beginning of the 4th year, and I feel like we are, getting a little bit better at different things and still learning a lot of things. We definitely, it's been hard times for in-person user groups. Philly.net hasn't met in a while. Would love to see a change there. There's a lot of people in our community that I think would love to get back there. So here we are. I haven't turned this VM on for a while, and you might ask yourself a question like, why a VM? There's absolutely would be nothing wrong with me doing a few things. Nowadays you can get a desktop in the cloud, but I kind of like having this on disk where I can take as many snapshots as I want, and I don't not really have to worry about disk space or storage, or is this thing just going to be up there costing me money. There's nothing wrong with me getting like a server Linux in the cloud and using SSH. You can do everything you want there. And with environments like Visual Studio Code and other IDEs too, but the Visual Studio Code editor would allow me to take a Linux SSH server and connect to it from my desktop, whether it's Windows, Linux, whatever, it doesn't care, as if I was working right on that server. So I don't really need it, but I still like the idea that, like, here, I happen to fire this up. I reset my snapshot and I fired this thing up, and I said, look, I don't even have a single extension installed, not one. Where, I look at my, if I look at my Windows version of this on my local machine here, where of course I'm constantly doing stuff and trying stuff just all the time. Like here it is in Windows. If I go to the extensions panel, I mean, I've got a ton of stuff installed, a ton of stuff deactivated, just all kinds of things. So this is kind of a real neat opportunity, I think, to see like, well, every once in a while I kind of like to go over like, what does it take to get things started? And certainly nowadays we have some incredible options to not even have anything on your system. And we've talked about those options on the show. I really like them. Things like GitHub Code Spaces, or even other. I mean, there's plenty of things like Replit and Code Sandbox, and just places where you just get to work. And I really love that. So what I thought I would do first of all is I see, here's the terminal that comes with Linux Mint, at least the Linux Mint installation, the distribution that I used, which I'm not 100% sure when I installed this. See if I have any notes in my Virtualbox, because I happen to use Virtualbox for this. I just like Virtualbox. I for a while I had some issues where I really struggled getting Hyper-V to work, just me personally. But right now, one of the things that I am doing is I'm running Virtualbox on top of Hyper-V, which you didn't used to be able to do. It would be a little quicker if I turned off Hyper-V. There's no doubt about it. But if I leave Hyper-V on, I get a lot of phone support. Especially I have an Android phone, and a lot of phone support, like actually your phone screen just coming right up. I think they or if doing .NET MAUI development, the default way to do that stuff is with the with a Hyper-V based emulator. Now, I think you can swap that stuff out. But you know what? The stuff installed, it just worked. I didn't see a need to change it. Now, I decided to say, I'm not even sure. Like, is this a great resource? I don't know. But top 7 best Linux terminals. And I said, well, let's see. Is there something here interesting I might want to try? Oh, I like change the font size on the fly. That's cool. Terminator I've heard of, and I think that Terminator is well known. But a lot of these other ones I can't say I know all that well. So let's see. I wonder, are any of these difficult? VTE based terminal? I probably wouldn't be able to figure out a VTE terminal. Or I can just stick with what I have, because that's not really the huge point, but I do want to look into that. What made me stop, as I said immediately, I gotta increase this font size. And so choose a terminal font, and monospace is fine for now, but I need it to be a lot bigger myself. I'm just, Not just for this stream, but just because I can't I can't stand looking at this tiny terminal. So next thing we're going to do is let me open up settings in Visual Studio Code, which I suppose the cog would have been the easier way to click that. Let's go to the settings. And I'm curious, the default font in here is Droid Sans Mono or a monospace font. Okay, so let's have a little fun with this. What if I open Firefox, and let's hope Firefox doesn't take too long to load here. Let's find out how long it takes. If it'd be easier to, no, it's not too bad. I had a lot of this stuff turned off. I could turn that stuff off, turn that off, and I get a nice, pretty clean page there. That's cool. All right, now, what I kind of want to do is take a look at nerd fonts. I have this downloaded in Windows, but what I'm wondering is how, how might I even get this installed? I actually don't even know. Just not something I do every day. So let's take a look. Want to download. I think there's one that I kind of liked, like Fira Mono is okay, I suppose. Boy, there's a lot of them. But what I really want to do is, can I search for these? Maybe a cheat sheet. That's not what I'm looking for. Font downloads. Already found that. I wonder, isn't I don't know that this is necessarily. I don't necessarily know that I want Cascadia code. Like, I don't know that I care. Catching the new Powerline glyphs. Cool. I don't that. Okay. So how about we do this? So let's see what they say here. Installing nerd fonts to add glyphs in your code on Linux, which is exactly what I'm looking for. So official nerd fonts download page, no problem. And the question, like, I was already here, but I got to decide. And I was hoping I could like search instead of having this big list, but there aren't. Actually, this isn't a very long. That's not that long. Okay, cool. So, anything means mono to go get writer working on here. Fira mono, Fira code. So let's grab Fira code. Why not? Now this is downloading it as a zip. From the bottom, it had some curl commands that I could have done this. Okay, I see. It looks like you can just grab the font name directly from GitHub. Download. That's interesting. Let's see what happens if I do it this way. This is a little Windowsy. What I'm doing, right, is looking directly in the zip file. I just want this regular one. And I'm curious what this particular thing says. It says you can copy fonts to local share fonts. Okay, that's cool. Or they could be system wide. I don't know that I care. The local share fonts. Okay, fine. That's fine. And let's go ahead and again, we'll be very Windowsy here. And we'll go ahead and and go to or something in here, which we don't have to do. Don't have to do it this way. Okay. Interesting, nothing in there. Or to user share fonts. That makes me wonder. What if I go share fonts? Just in this, I'm curious how things look in this distro. some stuff there. Now, what I'm wondering is, I don't know, do I really want to just copy the whole thing in? Track the download zip file. No, let's see. So we've got the zip file, but I don't know that I definitely want all of it. But what if I can extract here? I'm gonna plop, oh no, I did put them in a folder, which is what I wanted. And I don't know that I really need the bold. So let's look at, they want all of these. I guess they can go into a folder, right? It's kind of looking like I can do this. Let's see what happens. Easy enough. Interesting, that's not letting me do that. Probably need to, guessing that there could be an administrator issue here, which I could fix, but I'm going to be a little lazy. Say, or grabbing home folder, local share font. Try that. Dot local, of course, isn't going to be sitting here. So, no. The fonts folder here. It's easy. That would be cool. I would be very happy if it is. Try this. Okay, copied it in. Now I don't know what that's going to do for me, but let's see. What if I come back to the terminal, and now that that's there, I don't know if I have to refresh anything. Sometimes might not have to. Ah, here they are. Here it is. Vera code. Cool. Awesome. All right. So let's see. Let's see now that I've done that. Yeah, you know, I would be honest. The Dark Elder says Mint is an awesome distro if you're switching from Windows, and so I've used a lot of Ubuntu, and Ubuntu's fine. One of the reasons why I switched though is that I've kind of observed, and I've also read that Ubuntu desktop's a little heavy, especially when you don't need a lot of stuff. Like I am not coming to Linux to like do a bunch of graphics applications. I don't mind having a windowed environment, especially as I code. I don't mind that, but I kind of just want to get some code going. So it was recommended like, well, try Linux Mint. It's a little bit lighter weight, and it's run pretty well. I actually really like it. But I can't put my finger on like, well, I definitely love this about it. I don't know. There's nothing good or bad that I have to say about it. Now, the font family, this is going to be the fun part. It's figuring out the Fira Code font family. I wonder, let's see, Fira Code font family visuals code. Anybody here commonly used? Enable Fira Code under commonly used, expand the text editor, click on font. They say just type Fira Code, huh? Well, let's try it. Now, I think that this tries favorite options one at a time. So let's try this. Let's set that. And then let's go ahead and open a text file. We're going to need a folder somewhere. I kind of like having stuff. I like to have a source folder. Oops. Welcome. So let's say that I want everything in source. I think I can change that. I think so, but I'm not 100% sure. So here we go. Do I trust the authors? Let's do this. Let's say that we trust the source folder. We're going to create a new file, and let's just create a new file. And now Visual Studio Code is going to say, hey, you know, you can pick a language to get started with, And I think I'm going to go ahead and just for the heck of it, I'll pick like C#. And let's see, just because what I want to see here is if I just start typing statements, if I say console, just want to see how this looks. So not that I really care to run this code. And then let's say I do this. Is it gonna see no ligatures? See that? No ligatures, which I'm not 100% sure how do you get the programming ligatures going. To tick the checkbox, enable, disable font ligatures. So maybe that was part of it, something I did not do. To enable fair code and then tick the checkbox, which I didn't see. I wasn't paying close enough attention here. So let's go take a look. What if I just type font ligatures? Configures font ligatures. Can either be a Boolean. Well, oh, it says false. Okay. Set it to true. Now come back and I'm not seeing it. Set it to true. I saved it, right? No matching extent. Okay. Let's try. I'm just not 100% sure. What else does that thing say? Okay, manually editing settings JSON. This doesn't work. Wrap with additional apostrophes or restart VS Code. Oh well. Let's try. Oh, that's already set. Let's try restarting VS Code. Let's try that. I actually don't want to. I don't want this to get. I want to start in here. And for the heck of it, still no font ligatures. Like, what if I just start? I just start an HTML file and then save it. It's fine. Call it index.html. And then we just make a simple page. Okay, fine. And then let's JavaScript, which script source. I don't actually have one, so here we say index.js, and we don't do anything in here yet, but we'll include index.js. Yeah, perfect, perfect, perfect. And over here, let's try in a little while. We're going to take a look at this. If you ever heard of this site, you might not need jQuery. It's become a little reference for me that I remember every now and then. And the ready method, I don't necessarily need jQuery for. I can just copy the function myself. So now I have a ready function, but I'm still not getting your code nerd font stuff, right? Not getting what I want there. Kind of what I was hoping for. So I don't necessarily, this isn't a C# project. In order to use this, let's get live server going. I like live server for this. That's going to take a second. And I don't really have anything going on here. So I didn't supply a ready function. So I guess I can say And we won't do anything else other than say document.get ID, and let's get a document here. Get an element in here. Put a couple elements in. Put one. Put a body tag page. I'm going to put. Let's put another one. We're going to give this an ID. Say hide. So there's nothing there. But if I go back to the index.js and I now get that element, then I can, if I get the element, and what do I do to change its value again? Email, I think. I guess it can be inner text. All right, nothing special. Just want to see it work. Let's go live. Going live, page comes up. Hello, welcome to my page, but nothing else happened. So what went wrong there? Let's see if the I think I did this wrong. Go back and take a look. Go back and take a look at query and say not value. There's inner. Oh, to set. No, I did that right. Hide L dot inner text. Maybe I didn't save it. That might have been the problem. I might not have saved that work. So get back over here. Why not call it hide? Funny, I feel like I've done this so many times. Oh, I never readied it. I never readied it. So by not doing this, the only purpose of the ready function is to make sure that the DOM is ready for me to start manipulating it. And I never really did that. So there it is, found you, now it works. Great. That's exactly what I want. So cool. And then if I make that change, it should automatically. That's the nice thing. The thing I kind of like about Live Server. I mean, there's a lot of things I like about Live Server, but one of them is that the Live Server extension, I can nicer that when we have two monitors for this, but I can do stuff like this, and I can change this, and when I hit that, it just automatically reloads the page, which is pretty cool. So, okay, but what I'm not getting is the nerd font glyphs. So what I'm thinking is maybe I did a little bit of ignoring here and didn't pay close enough attention to which fonts were the nerd fonts, right? So what if I go back to the Firacode font? So it's interesting how it's a Firacode bold nerd, and that makes me wonder, do I need to say that? Do I need to say Firacode nerd font? It's possible that I do. So what if we come back to do that too? What if we come back to settings, say Firacode? Sometimes might you have to say NF, possible. Let's see. There was another option that I had that I haven't tried yet. So let's close this out. See if restarting Visual Studio Code helps here. But what was the thing? The other thing this thing said, it said you could also try, like when all that stuff doesn't work, get a couple more options. App apostrophes. So here a code should have been enough. I shouldn't have had to do F. That means. Okay. So it could just be that it's just, I just don't know what I'm doing. Entirely possible. Yeah, so I'm not getting later. Not the end. Just, I don't even know if I really like them that much. Some people don't. And I don't know how I feel about them. I really don't. So, a definite change there. Now, what if I pull this out completely? You know, I can't even tell that it's changing the font at all, actually. Yeah, look at now it's a total mess. Now I'm all over the place. Um, Zero code, regular nerd font. Oh. Yeah, now it can't do anything. Makes you wonder what was the default again? Whoa. Droid. Mono. Oops. Now we've done it. Braid sands, no. Definitely goofed here. Should be able to open this. Oh, that's interesting that it says Fear Code NF. I wonder if that helps me. I wonder what that's telling me. Name Fear Code NF. I wonder if this is trying to tell me something. In which case, we will learn something today. That would be cool. To open that folder up again. Wow, whatever I did, I really did it. Watch Visual Studio Code doesn't work anymore, and I have to revert the VM. Like it doesn't work at all. Oh no, that's it. That was it. That was it. Okay, so some lessons there, and the lesson is one place you can install a font is you can go to your user folder .local share fonts. It's probably not the only place, and you can just copy the whole folder in. That's fine, but when you want to pick a font, you need the font family. Where do you get the font family? I'm not really 100% sure, but I've noticed that if I double clicked here, I saw that the name of this font was different right here. It said Fira Code NF instead of this long friendly name. And that got me thinking, maybe this is the actual name of the font and not the long old friendly name. So let's go try that. Let's go put that in Visual Studio Code, and Visual Studio Code is now working. Now, do I love this font? I don't know. I don't know. It's probably not my favorite. But the glyphs are working. Now, are the glyphs cool? Some people like them. For example, look how this glyph here is actually this put together. And when you do this one, and remember in BASIC when you used to say not equal by doing that? I don't know. I don't know. Some people like them, some people don't. Some people feel like they are a little bit of a barrier to entry for folks. So, I don't know. Okay, so a little bit of quick JavaScript coding there just to see that stuff work. Cool. Now, what if I wanted to maybe work on something else? Now, one of the things that I can tell you in year 4, at least what I hope to happen, is I hope to start a lot of us branching out onto other things, right? Like if you watch this show, you know that you're dealing with a couple Microsoft MVPs and one Microsoft employee. So I mean, work on that stack all day and can bring a lot of expertise from that, but definitely always interested in other things. So I think you're going to see a little bit more of that this year, which I think is going to be cool. I've got Live Server installed. That's cool. I need to do a couple other things. I think I'm going to need the Azure Tools because I want to try doing something. I don't just want this Azure Functions extension. I could do that. I could just get the Azure Functions extension and I could go to work. But I think you have to have the Func tools installed too, which is okay. We'll get that done. But this installs a bunch of stuff. It's an extension pack. So let's install this extension pack. Then next up, I am sure that I do not have the Azure CLI. So let's find out. Is it this easy? And I love it when it is. So I gotta put in my password, which be fine. This is just a VM. Not too worried about what's going on here. Azure CLI is being installed. Signing out and reloading the window is required for modified settings to take effect. Let's do that. Okay, so why did I do all that? Well, because now, as you can see, now that I have this extension, I can quickly sign in to my Azure account. So let's go ahead and do that. Now for this, I'm going to need to if it lets me do this with the authenticator so that I don't. Well, that's kind of cool. Don't have to use my password, right? Let's see. Let's see if it works. Look at that. I just got a notification asking me to approve it. Oh, but it might not work. Haha. When would that be? Oh, it's still working. It's working on it. Error communicating with server. Oh, wah, wah, wah. Could that error possibly be? All right. Well, let's not do that. Let's what we're gonna do. Shut that off for a second. And yep, authenticated in here. As I'm signed in. Oh no, it's challenging me again. Oh no, it worked that time. Maybe. Yeah, okay. All that stuff worked. That's cool. Um, Heck, I can even create a function app. That's cool. All right. So let's bring back with this let's bring back the screen here since you couldn't see it for a second there. Make sure I don't dox myself on accident. Um, and okay. Now that we've done that, let's see. The next thing that I probably want to do is, and I don't think this is going to work, and that's good because I'm kind of trying to see from scratch here. I don't think it's going to let me create a new function app. I just don't think it's going to do it. So if I say create new project, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Select the folder, backup one. I don't really want that. So what am I doing? I have this extension that'll help me create Azure Function apps. And one of the things it is, once I installed that extension, I now have this whole Azure Functions section in the command palette, which is Control-Shift-P or Command-Shift-P. So I'm going to say I want to create project, create new project, and it says, well, where do you want to put it? And I would like for it to be, I think if I say to select the folder that has your project, I think it's still going to put it in a subfolder here. I'm going to go ahead and do C# and must have the .NET Core SDK installed. Okay, cool. So now we're learning. So now I wonder if it's as simple as me just asking. So .NET that did not work. So now how do you install the .NET SDK? Right, that's the next one. And let's go see. We can get some quick help here on this. Just see. Let's just see. Homa.net. I don't want to download it. I think there's a much easier way. .net. Install on Linux. Instructions. Cool. Manual installation. Don't really care about that. And I think I'm allowed to use this. The only problem is, I think I end up having to do some stuff. Like, I don't think it's super simple. Yeah, first I've probably got to add this like package directory, right? Or I don't want to call it a directory, but it's the W. So try to add to it. Like that. Didn't look like that took very long. Then we download it and then been set up. So now they're just having us clean up after ourselves, which is fine. I appreciate that. I appreciate that we're cleaning up. Okay, so now installing the SDK. Looks like you can do this whole thing together. So let's try it. Let's try it. Yeah. This might take a little bit. Don't know how long it'll take. So SDK. Don't necessarily need the runtime. I don't think I do anyway. Interesting. There's no. Well, if I remember correctly, I feel like I read that Linux Mint came about from people who thought that Ubuntu was getting bloated. I think that's what I read. So does .NET work now? It does. It does. It does. So I can say I do have an SDK in here. And if I say .NET new and ask for help, it's going to be like, oh yeah, watch a little bit bigger so we can read it. It's going to be like, oh, oh, yeah, they're all here. .NET list dash L. I think there's, did I do that wrong? .NET list. Same .NET new list, maybe? It's a fork from Ubuntu. Yeah, I thought I read that. I thought I read that. And, you know, here we go. Here we go. A lot of cool stuff there. Now that I've installed the .NET SDK, let's find out if that's enough for me to get started here. One of the things I might not have gotten finished saying is that in the next year, I'm really hoping that we have some episodes where we work with like Python, work with Go. Those are two that I'd really like to see. Um, yeah, I'd like to do more. I know we don't do a lot of .NET here, and actually, you know, there's nothing wrong with focusing. Like there's really nothing wrong. I think a lot of times we as developers and people in IT, I think that those of us that are maybe attracted to it have this natural idea that like you want to know everything. And you can certainly do very well in this career if you specialize, like if you really focus on one thing. In fact, there's some advice that the smaller of a thing you focus on, like the more valuable you are. But I can't help it. Like I've always liked learning new languages, learning new things, and so definitely would like to branch out and do a couple other concentrate on. I don't know that we can do everything, but maybe concentrate on one or two more languages. Um, and like to do some things like where we compare and contrast them. And it's not, the point is never ever to say that one is better than the other. It's just to say, hey, here's how you do this. Here's how you can do something in Go. Here's how you can do something in Python. Here's how you can do something in C# or F#. I don't know that we add a whole lot more to that. Sometimes JavaScript just fits in because JavaScript is everywhere. But yes, that is something I would really like to see in the next year. So I'm glad to see that's got Dark Elder excited because I'm excited about it too. So if I say C#, it took it and it said, okay, you can select a runtime and we're going to use .NET 6, select a template for your project's first function, and I'm going to say a durable functions orchestration just because I think they're cool. And we're going to say, I actually don't really care what it's called. Say, we'll say TTS shot demo will be the namespace. In order to debug, you must select a storage account for internal use by the Azure Functions runtime. So that's cool. And we'll create a new storage account. So what's a storage account? It's a place that where they can hold like, you know, queues and tables and blobs. I got to pick a resource group. Let's make a new one. Carbon programming language. Cool. That about. I want to bring this. I want to bring your comment on, and then I'd also like to see if I can grab this link and we can go take a look at it. New programming language aims to see C++ successor. Wow, that's cool. I started one of the early languages in my career was C++, not one of the earliest in my existence. I would say the first language I learned was good old fashioned basic. Um, and I mean like the GW basic, style basic, Apple basic, stuff like that. But yeah, cool. Cool. All right. Be interesting to take a look at here. All right, so did I finish creating this? No. Do that real quick. Or did it not do it? What was I working on? What was this question? Oh, create a new resource group. Select the location. US is fine. So a bunch of stuff's happening now. It's creating a little project for me to use. And over in the Azure world here, it should be creating the little function app. Which, again, I don't have to use this. We now have the Azure CLI, I think. All right, so we got the Azure CLI, which is cool, all on this machine. I'm gonna have to save this snapshot, but more importantly, it looks like we've seen a bunch of different ways to get started here. Oh, that function app's probably not deployed, but the new storage account is also not deployed. It's still thinking. Well, this is up. So what is this? This is a durable Azure function, and a durable function. Do I want to install the recommendation? Sure. Let's go ahead and get that installed. So a durable Azure function, the function that can help you orchestrate a workflow functions, and they have a really good primer on this in the docs. And there's been a show on durable functions too. But so an Azure function, like other platforms, have function as a service type stuff. In Azure, we have Azure Functions, which by default are supported on a few different languages here on the .NET stack. Also on JavaScript or TypeScript, Python, PowerShell. There's a Java preview. And it turns out that because the functions runtime is extensible, there are blog posts out there about how people like put their favorite language on functions. So the key is there are these different application patterns. What happens with a function is your function is triggered by certain events. If it's a queue trigger, then that means a message landing on a queue triggers your function to wake up and act on that message. There's other triggers, including very popular ones like an HTTP trigger, just a quick little, if somebody makes an HTTP request to this particular location, your code runs on it. People build entire backends out of, either in Azure Functions or Google Compute or AWS Lambda or something like that. But what a durable function allows is the time often comes in your use of this particular like function as a service type technologies where you want to start to orchestrate how, okay, I want to call this function, and then when that's done, I want this other function to be called, and then when that's done, I want this other function to be called. And that turns out to actually be kind of difficult. So there are these patterns that they sort of drop off and say, like, these are some typical patterns that can benefit from durable functions. The first one I just sort of described. What if you want to chain together 4 different Azure functions so that they all get called? And they have some example code on, well, here's how you do it. What if you have multiple functions that you want to execute, and then you want them all to finish, and then when they're all finished, then go ahead and continue with some further work, and that's what they call this fan out and fan in. And if you look at the code, what the code's doing is it's saying, okay, well, let me get a list of tasks that all return an int each, and what I'm going to do is I have some different work items to process, and for each one of those work items, like, I'll get them out of this F1 function that gives me a batch of objects. And then I'm going to loop through that batch of objects and call the F2 function on each one, and then add the resulting task to a list of tasks. So that's what this parallel task is. It's a list of tasks. It was declared up here. And then I'm going to use this little thing in the task library when all. So this line is not going to complete until all of the tasks that were defined in this parallel tasks list, until they all complete, we are going to stop right here and wait. And then when they're all done, since each of these tasks returned an integer, what I can do is I can just sum through the results, and then I can call yet another function, another activity, and sum that up. So that's interesting. Let's take a look at what they gave us. So in this startups demo sample, they say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to return this list of hello greetings. And what we'll do is we'll come in and we'll create a new list of strings. So the list is empty. There's nothing in here. And then let's add to the list the result of calling each of these functions. We're going to call the durable functions orchestration C#1 hello function. We'll have to go find that function in a second. And we're going to pass it the parameter Tokyo. All right, so call activity async allows you to call a function and provide an input. And we're going to do that 3 times. We're going to call the same function 3 times, but we're going to pass 3 different parameters: Tokyo, Seattle, and London. And then when we're done, what that should do, since we added the results of this to a string list, let's go ahead and return that string list. Well, okay, that's cool. But what does that mean? Well, let's take a look at the function that's being called. This funny syntax here, await context call activity async. In durable functions, an activity is just basically your orchestration function. You're kind of like your master or your leader, so to speak. Oh, it's an orchestrator, right? The leader of the work. How about that? The leader of the work. That's probably the best terminology of everything that I said there. Calls out to a function with this name. Now the name of the function in C# world is say hello, but with an attribute, we can change its name for the purposes of other Azure function activities. So when it says call activity async, it goes out and finds a function that either has this name or its function name, the name of the Azure function has been changed. The name of the job has been given, it's been given something else. So what it really means is call say hello 3 times. And all say hello is going to do is log something out. And it's going to return a string hello with that name. And then that string gets added to this list. And then eventually whoever's calling for it gets the list. Orchestration function needs something to start them. And in this case, we have an HTTP trigger function. And when this function starts, it's if I were to call that HTTP function, either by using something like curl or something like that, then this function executes, and as you can see, what it does is it starts a new orchestration. It starts an orchestration using that function name there. So I don't know if this is going to run. I'm going to double check if it's going to run. And you must have the Azure Functions core tools installed to debug your local functions, which I thought that was going to happen. I really did. So let's happen here. Okay. Let's go see. Saying that I can install. And you can install with npm, but I can also install by setting up a package feed like we just did. And I may have already set this one up, quite frankly. But so let's see if I've already set this up. Then let's just try this. I've already set up this Microsoft package repository, which I'll find out soon enough that I either have or have not. So let's paste that in there. For this VM. And yeah, it already knows where it is and it's going to get it. That's cool. Hopefully it doesn't take it too long. So hey, while we're waiting for the Azure Functions core tools to install, tonight it's just me. Just Yeah, tonight it's just me. Um, Chris Gomez, my two co-hosts, Andy Schwam and Rich Ross. They will be back in future episodes. No problem there. We know for sure that's gonna happen. What I want to do here is I am working to bring up our YouTube site. So if you're new to us, please check out the YouTube channel. As you can see, we're live right now, and we have weekly shows, and we've been going back a little while now. Number of years. 2 years ago, Blaze with Carl Franklin. When I say the show is reaching its 4th year, the first year we just piggybacked on the Philly.net channel, and we switched over to the Dev Talk show maybe close to 3 years ago. So, and as you can see, we used to meet in person. Andy and I used to be side by side, right? How cool was that? And hoping that someday that happens again. So, hey, Code with Sean is here. Awesome. Hi, just me. Yeah. Yeah, so it's just me tonight, like I said. And when it is just me, so here's something that I have when all three of us are here. If I switch to if I switch to this 3 panel, see, this looks kind of funny, right? When I switch, like, oh look, there's only one of us tonight. So, and then that's it. That's not the most exciting thing. I think I thought I had it on the 3 panel, but I don't seem to have it on the 2 panel. Or am I just? Oh no, here it is. Here it is. This is what I was looking for. There we go. There we go. The host names are up here and Twitter handles, but kind of weird when it's just me. So let's head back to our screen share because, oh, I thought that the Azure Functions core tools would be ready by now, but they're not. It's actually quite a big download, 124 megs. And so tonight, from the beginning, we have just tried. I've got this Azure VM running Linux Mint. We have done shows on it in the past, and I wanted to just quickly run through, like, can I set some things up that I kind of like, although I'm still using the default terminal, as you can see. And we did manage to get a font installed into Visual Studio Code. It happens to be one of these nerd fonts, and got all that working. That was pretty cool. So if we can just get a little bit of a run through with this function, probably call it an evening. So, hey, just followed you on Twitter. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And it's been a busy summer. In fact, it's not going to get any lighter. Pretty active family here. Oh, and then my dog has just come in. Dog says, hey, wants to join. Are you going to be able to come up here? Are you? Or are you just going to sit? He's just going to sit. That's all he's going to do. So, dog walked in the room and said, hey, what's going on? So, my daughter came in too. Don't pick him up. Pick him up.
Here.
All right. So, he didn't make it on camera though. All right. So, yeah, this download turned out to be a lot longer. Look at that. Just took forever. So, yeah, how can we see the puppy?
I have an idea. We pick up the webcam and bring it down to him. Oh, okay, hold on.
I don't know that he's gonna stop. Got him. Come on. Say hi. There he is.
Puppy.
So, what's the matter, boy? You get bored? All right. So, you got a couple compliments. Apparently, you're a cute dog. No, just a dog. So, in any case, wow. I was, a lot of the other stuff we installed tonight was super quick. This was not one of those things. Um, I have it all. I mean, I have this all working on the Windows side. But I'm actually not sure if some other things need to be installed. Like, I don't know if a storage emulator needs to be installed. I really don't know. Um, because I know when I work locally with Azure Functions, it uses the Azure storage emulator, which is cross-platform. And, you know, I don't know what's going to happen there. I guess we're going to find out. If it uses the real storage, I don't mind just for a demo, just to see this stuff work. Look, it says 98%, 90, like it's the slowest part, 99%. Wow, just for 124 megs, that really surprises me that it took that much work. And of course, now it's got to actually install it, right? Now the hard part where it actually has to go install it. Okay, opt out. Okay, so now that I've done that, is that all I have to do? Can I just hit run? Can I just do that? Does that just work? Well, terminal's opening up and it's building the app, and let's see if it fires up the Azure Functions runtime here. Again, doing this all on a relatively clean Linux build. It wasn't totally clean. I already had Visual Studio Code on it and things like that. Yeah, look at that. This is running. What I don't know is I'm curious what it's using for storage. Yeah, here's my test AZ functions thing, but that's okay. What I want to do now to kick off, let's set a breakpoint. We can watch how durable functions work. So theoretically, let's just say that I had this really important orchestration where I need to call this function 3 times to build this this list of strings. And here's where this was the first time I played with durable functions, and I said, oh, that didn't quite do what I thought it would do. So first of all, there's a starter. You have to have a starter to your durable function, and so this is declared as a starter. It happens to be an HTTP trigger, and it can be triggered anonymously. Anyone can trigger it. There are other authorization levels. You can basically grant authorization just to like other functions or maybe to users or things like that. But in this particular case, all this is going to do is start a new orchestration by calling it out by name. And where does this name come from? Up here, not the name run orchestrator, the function name that has been kind of overridden by this attribute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if it'll run this. Okay, cool. There it goes. Awesome. And when you run an Azure function, I know we're going to hit a breakpoint. When you run an Azure function, one of the things you get back is you get like the ID for that particular function run. And then you get a bunch of URIs that you can call to find out how things are going. So theoretically, you could like write a monitor dashboard. And for example, it's saying, well, look, if you hit localhost 7071 and you provide that ID and you ask about this particular call, I'm going to tell you what's going on. And let's see what it says. Although I don't think it can because I'm in the middle of the breakpoint. So I think it's frozen. Be curious if it's able to pop in there in between the freezes. Probably not. So what does a durable function do? It says, well, first of all, I know that I'm going to create a new list of string with nothing in it. And so let's take a look at outputs. It's got, I can see it up here in this variable view. There's nothing in the list, nothing at all. So if I call this activity, which I'm going to go set a breakpoint in this activity so we can see it happen. There's not much going on in this activity. Let me step over this line, and we end up, should end up, oh, I didn't set a breakpoint. I meant to. I meant to set a breakpoint here, and I must have goofed. And now it's there. So here's the interesting thing. Look at the next line of code that ran. It didn't do what you might have thought it did. It ran this line of code, outputs.add, and it went ahead and called that activity, and then it exits. The reason it exits because we use the await keyword here, and we used it on this special method, the durable orchestration context call activity async method. And what this method does is it knows how to start this function by name, and it knows that you are passing this input. So if we go to the function real quick, we'll see that we could write a function called with an activity trigger, and this is an activity in an orchestration. We can write this function that takes a name, just like this takes a string, and then we're also supplying the logger interface through dependency injection. And all it's doing is it's simply returning a string hello name. Well, it already did that because I didn't have the breakpoint set correctly. But the durable function starts over. Here we are with outputs. It's null at the moment. It's null. When I hit F10, it is not going to be null any longer, but it's going to be empty. And when it runs this line of code the first time, what's going to happen is it's going to try to await the same exact function call that it made just a second ago. And what happens is durable functions in that context, they remember what methods you've called. And they say, wait a second, you already called that method. So I'm not going to call it again. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I have a result. And it does have a result. It has hello Tokyo. So it's just going to return it as if the function just ran. And I hit F10, and we're going to go down to the next line of code on 22 as soon as it figures it out. But let's take a look at outputs. Outputs now has one string in it, this hello Tokyo string. That's it. So now it says, okay, well now what do you want me to do? You want me to add another string to outputs, but you want me to get it by calling the same exact activity, but this time passing in Seattle. So let's go ahead and hit F10. And where we're going to end up is we should end up right here. Here we go. We end up with the say hello function getting called, because when we say to call this activity with this long name, well, here's the activity right here. See that match? These match. So it calls this activity. It passes in Seattle because that's the parameter that was passed here. And it's just going to use the logger interface to try the say hello thing. We don't know where that's going, although we can see that it ended up down here in the terminal. And now it's going to return a string, hello Seattle. So it's going to return that. Well, in normal C# await async, the next line of code to run would be 23 because we awaited on line 22. That would be the next thing to run. But in durable functions, something slightly different happens. The orchestration runs again, and it runs again from the top. Now, why is that? Well, these are disconnected, distributed pieces of code. In fact, if there's a long enough gap between, I'm surprised, where's my function? Should be coming back. It should be coming back. I think it's just oh yeah, there it goes. The durable function, there might be long waits between steps in an orchestration, and they want to exit. They want the function to go away. They want the container to spin down for lots of reasons, save themselves resources, but it saves you money too. But whatever triggers the next step of the orchestration, it has to like rebuild that. Now, granted, your container might be up and running somewhere. It might be running in 5 different places, but there's no way to know that ahead of time. So it actually rebuilds the context and runs the whole function. So you have to make sure your function is deterministic. It doesn't matter that every time we come in, we set this outputs variable to an empty list, because we know that we're going to ask for the result of this method, which has already been computed. So it's going to supply the list with hello Tokyo. And then, and let's see if we can see the list. Here we go, hello Tokyo. And then the second hello Seattle execution, that's already run as well. So up in the left corner, we're going to see under variables. In just a second, we're going to see hello Seattle. And then this time, it's going to say, oh, wait a second. I never called that I never called that activity with the value London. So I'd better actually go make that call. So here it did. It made the call, and this activity Azure function fires. These are all in the same source file. They don't have to be. Just going to do the log once again and create the hello London, and got through there. And now it's trying to take me out to the rest of Azure function land. The orchestration fires again because there's more to do. We return to the orchestration. But just as before, outputs is null because this is a brand new trip through this function. So outputs is null. We're going to create a new empty list. And after that new empty list is created, we're going to say, okay, await calling the hello activity with the word Tokyo. But it's going to say, I've already done that and I already have the result. I already know what that is. So let me just hand it to you. Let me unwrap it the way async await does. And then you can call add on it. And we did. And so now outputs has hello Tokyo in it. And then when I try to await the second activity call, it's going to say, but I've already called hello with Seattle in it. I know the answer. And let me give it back to you. And then that gets added to the outputs list because we're using the add function right here. We're using this add function. We already know London got called last time through. So this is going to be quick as well, where it's going to say, hold on a second, I've already called London. Let me get the answer and let me put it into the outputs list. Well, the variables task hasn't caught up yet. There it is. All three of them are there. But now I can actually finally return outputs, which in this case, I think is going to end up showing up just in a browser. But it's just fascinating that, like, maybe it's not going to show up in a browser. Might not. Last time I ran this, the runtime pendant status was pending. Now let's run it to see that it should be completed. Yes. So remember that status query function? I hung on to it. It's telling me, yep, that particular instance is now completed. And here was its output. These were the things that it output. And here was the last time that I updated this at 154. It only took so long because I took us through it very slow, like I stepped through it. So that is an interesting example of a durable function, but I will admit that even after seeing that, there's a lot more to learn here. And I think on a future show, we will definitely work on that. We'll say, hey, here are some other things that we can do with Azure Functions and durable functions, because as far as projects for the next year, I think there's one that Andy's working on. And one of the things we plan to do in the next year is we would like to release an official Dev Talk Show website, and also a Dev Talk Show mobile app. These aren't necessarily meant to change your lives. They're meant to be projects that we can work on together, whether it's on stream or even off stream, and then talk about and just help people understand, like, what did we find easy? What did we find hard? Are there some gotchas you should be aware of? And get going there. So, I mean, we could see that I was able to get Azure Functions up and running here on a Linux machine, Visual Studio Code. It happens to be a VM, just because I wanted to, just because I wanted to see that go. So yeah, yeah. Hopefully that was kind of fun. All right. So don't forget, if you're new to us, there is the YouTube page, and on Meetup, easiest way to find us is the Dev Talk Show. It's actually easier to find us by searching, by typing Meetup and the Dev Talk Show. It's actually the easiest way to find us. There isn't a schedule listed here yet, but the mission statement for the weekend is to get the next few shows up on here so that folks like you know what's coming. And also even on Twitter, we need to get some announcements here of what's coming next, right? It should be something that people are seeing. But hey, it's great to see some old friends again. I know that I've seen Code with Sean on a lot of Jeff Fritz's streams or even other Visual Studio streams, and definitely, let me tell you, there's another channel you should be following and watching. A lot of good stuff going on there too. So nice to have you drop by. I really do appreciate that. And next week, I think we will have a co-host back, and I'm trying to look for a different kind of topic, maybe not even a programming one. We've done some interesting stuff where in the past we used Try Hack Me to try and solve some puzzles. Might see about bringing that back up again. Or we've even played with things like Code Wars to do programming puzzles there. That was fun stuff. But we're looking for some new things, some new tools and utilities that are helping us that might help you as well. But yeah, that's it. Managed to get a solo show done and try to not let the whole month of July go by. We weren't here the last couple weeks, so thanks for hanging in there. And again, it was always great. It's always great to see all of you. So thanks for letting me experiment a little bit tonight with this show and make sure the streaming setup works. And it's always good to see everybody. But on behalf of just me in this case, we will see you next time on the Dev Talk Show. Reverse engineering.